Good morning, YouTube. Well, I thought I'd show you what I've been up to for the past, I don't know, has it been a week already? I don't think I've posted, this has all been done since my last video that I posted about all my tomatoes and peppers. I've been doing a little bit of canning. Over here, I canned, I was going to call it Rotel, but I saw on another YouTube channel someone commented and said they call theirs tops, tomatoes, onions, peppers, and I thought, what a great idea. So I ended up with 14 canned pints and then a couple extra because my canners were full, so I just took what was left over. I know there was over a quart and made salsa out of it. So I know we're going to use a lot of these and go through it really fast. I might even have to can some more. Especially since I've got so many onions and peppers, I just as well be using them up. That's my patty pan and butternut squash there in the back. When I cut up some of my peppers and onions, I ran them through my mandolin slicer. So these are some of the sliced peppers that I had left over, and I dehydrated those. And I will always use those. I use a lot of, you know that. Tomatoes and peppers. I use a lot of that stuff. Then I took my peppers and I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a try. The only recipes I could find for canning peppers were pickled peppers. This recipe here was supposed to be like Subway banana peppers. I'm not impressed. I haven't opened a jar, so maybe it's not as bad as I think it's going to be, but they're just very vinegary, and I think they're soggy. I'll open a jar, but I did taste a few. Like I pulled one out of the jar, and it was just too vinegary before they sealed. But we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, if we don't like them, I know my chickens will. My chickens will eat just about anything. Then on Saturday, we processed our chickens. We processed 9 of our old laying hens. Of the 9 that we processed, we found 4 that were full of eggs, and that's what my previous video was on. I find it very fascinating, so I hope it doesn't upset anyone. All the yolks that you see in there are not from one hen. They're just different sizes that I got from different hens and laid them out so you could see the progression. And we ended up with 4 fully developed eggs out of it. So anyway, then that day, the old farmer and I, we cut as much chicken off of the bone that we could and took all of the carcasses, I guess we'll say, and put them in the pressure canner with some seasonings, whole onions, garlic, some old carrots that I had, what have you. And I cooked that chicken down in my pressure canner and made broth. And I'll show you that in just a minute. With the chicken that we cut off the bone, I did raw pack, which is where you just take the chicken and put it in a jar. It calls for ½ a teaspoon of salt in for a pint. I don't use that much, but I ended up with 8 pints. One didn't seal, so we got to eat it, and it was very good. Very tender, very, very good chicken. I do use a lot of that. And then yesterday, I took the broth. I let it set for overnight until the fat and the broth separate, and then I skim the fat off of the top. And sometimes I save it for frying and stuff, but I went ahead and let the dogs have a little treat. But then I took the chicken, the meat, and put some of the chicken meat in there. I used chopped up celery, and then I used my dehydrated carrots, my dehydrated onions, and dehydrated green onions. Put those all in the jar, and then I filled to the top with the broth. And man, am I ever impressed. That is such a dark, rich broth. And it is ended up, luckily one of the jars didn't seal, so we had some last night for supper, and it was just amazing. I'd always been told that the broth from the old hens used when you butcher old hens is much better, much richer. And I have to agree. And I know that it's all healthy because my chickens are totally free ranged. We lock them up at night and that's it. So I know that that's good, healthy food. And of my soup, I got 10 quarts. I know we'll go through that rather quickly because I make homemade egg noodles, and then we'll have chicken and dumplings and just good old-fashioned chicken soup. You just can't beat it. So that's what I've been up to. Here in a little bit, we're going to go out and pick tomatoes. I know we're going to have at least 1 5-gallon bucket full, very possibly 2. We walked through and looked at them last night, and like I've told you before, they are loaded, absolutely loaded, and they're starting to ripen very quickly. So time to be canning. I have one interesting thing I want to share with you. I thought maybe city folks might enjoy this. This is our phone book, folks, and not just my town. This has got about 10 towns in it. It's, well, probably can tell better, not even a ½ inch thick, and a little bit bigger than my hand. And this, guys, is a rural phone book. I didn't realize that, I never knew there was any different from that until my relatives as a child, my relatives from Minnesota came to visit Minneapolis. They wanted to put their daughter on the phone book in her chair when we sat down for dinner. They said, just give us a couple phone books. Minneapolis had 1 phone book for white pages, 1 phone book for yellow pages. And when my parents pulled that out, by the way, that's white and yellow pages. When my folks pulled that out, they just laughed and laughed. And it wasn't until we moved to Minneapolis and we got our phone books when I realized, oh, their phone books are like the Sears catalog, and they get 2 of them. I usually don't keep the phone book. We all know that everything's now online, so I usually toss the phone book as soon as we get it. But I thought you guys might be interested in seeing just a little bit of rural living, what a phone book looks like. I got to tell you, it's a lot easier to go through those phone books than a city one. All right, guys, thanks. I'll probably do a tomato update after we pick all those today.